The government shutdown is guaranteed to extend into next week after another failed vote on the funding bill this week. And with planned protests expected Saturday, this could further entrench political divisions.
This weekend's No Kings rallies will be an affirmation about what America is all about. And I say to my fellow citizens, do not let Donald Trump or Republicans intimidate you into silence. That's what they want to do. They're afraid of the truth. Republicans are going apoplectic.
Well, it's what America is all about in terms of allowing you to have freedom of speech and protest, and we have no kings. But that was Senator Chuck Schumer speaking yesterday, and joining us now to discuss, Republican Congressman Riley Moore of West Virginia, a member of the House Appropriations Committee. Good morning, Congressman. Great to have you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. So we just listened to Senator Chuck Schumer there talking about this weekend's planned so-called No Kings protests, and the White House striking back with this. Okay, well, thousands of Americans are missing paychecks because you shut the government down, and you're proving to the country that you care more about your popularity amongst the radical left than you do our citizens. You are a pathetic disgrace. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. The idea that the minority leader in the Senate is on the Senate floor pandering to the far left lunatics that are going to show up for this No Kings rally, which I guess basically any idiot on the planet can surmise that we don't have a king here in the United States, but I guess they have to have a rally for it. Look, this is like the pro-Hamas, Antifa side of the Democrat Party, which now seems to be leading the party. And that's who Chuck Schumer is capitulating to because he's so worried about a primary with AOC in 2028. And I think that's what's so unfair for the American people and the folks who are going without a paycheck right now, because we are held hostage because Chuck Schumer, one man, is worried about a primary challenge in 2028. And if he can't lead, he should step down. Somebody else should step up, because leaders are supposed to set aside those things and have enough strength to stand up and be able to do what's right by the country and the American people. Clearly, that's not the position he's in. He has been in Congress longer than I have been alive.
Right.
And so it's probably time for him to step aside and let somebody else lead.
He's a machine.
Great point, Representative. Now, House Speaker Mike Johnson was fired up about the state of the shutdown yesterday. Let's take a listen.
I get very upset about that. We stop holding the American people hostage for these ridiculous political games. People see what's going on here. We should not have Border Patrol agents not paid right now because Chuck Schumer wants to pay political games to cover his tail. I don't know how much more simply to say that, and every single one of you know. That's exactly what's going on. I don't like being mad, Mike. I want to be happy, Mike. I want to be the happy warrior, but I am so upset about this. God bless America. We're done. Thanks.
The speaker certainly seemed to be a little bit heated there. And Representative, do you think that the passions, now on the Republican side, but I imagine on the Democrat side, do you think that's going to prolong this shutdown?
Yeah, I don't think that there's any end in sight necessarily for the shutdown. Now, certainly the CR failed yesterday, but I think more important to highlight for your audience here is that the Majority Leader Thune tried to bring up the defense appropriations bill yesterday. Just the funding for the Defense Department, the bill that we had passed out of the House over here and sent over to the Senate. So this could have actually ended the stalemate, at least on the Defense Department, now Department of War funding, but the Democrats voted it down. They voted it down again. So they can't say that they're serious about reopening this government when we're just trying to reopen the Department of War, and they voted that down. So that seems to me that we're certainly at loggerheads on this, but we are not going to make concessions. We are not going to break on this, because all we are trying to do is fund the government. They're trying to give $1.5 trillion in health care to illegal immigrants, get rid of the Rural Hospital Stabilization Fund, and now they've thrown these Obamacare, ACA tax credits that were put in during the COVID era as part. Those don't expire, by the way, till December 31st. So we pass the CR, we do the budget, then we can have a conversation about those other things.
Right, and that's the real sticking point there, the healthcare issue with the illegal migrants taking our taxpayer healthcare away from us and crowding our emergency rooms. And the Democrats claim, oh no, this has to do with Obamacare funding for all people who deserve healthcare. But in reality, this was not even part of their CR that they put forward. I mean, can you elaborate more on this and why the Democrats and calling out the Republicans, it's basically a lie?
Yeah, so what their CR does is essentially strike the health provisions from the One Big Beautiful Bill.
Right.
Part of that was a verification that used to be in place but that was taken out by Joe Biden that verified that only legal residents were receiving Medicaid in the states. So they repealed that. We put it back in place in the One Big Beautiful Bill, which is why we had so much savings, because 11 Democrat states in America were giving Medicaid to illegal immigrants here in the United States. Now, at the same breath, they strike the Rural Hospital Stabilization Fund, which hurts states like mine and West Virginia and all the rural areas here in the United States. So essentially what we're doing is taking health care away from hardworking Americans and giving it to people who have no legal right to it to begin with. So that's where the Democrats are in this country right now.
Yeah. So true in terms of the back and forth and the reality. And good thing Mike Johnson, I think the Republicans initially had a bit of an issue describing exactly where it was in the CR, but he pointed it out. He laid it out. I think it was page 57, and he said just exactly what you described. I mean, that was the loophole that the Democrats are trying to exploit.
Yeah,
so we
section
see,
2141,
right,
page 57.
Oh, 57, right, exactly. I remember that page. It's a key provision, but they always try to sneak in these loopholes. So it's good that we have the evidence to support that.
yeah, we should be wearing T-shirts with that page, right? Turn to page 57.
There you go.
So, Congress, really, another failed vote. In your view, what's the real sticking point? Is it a policy issue here, or is it just pure ugly politics?
Well, I think it's both. One is politics, as you heard the minority leader of the Senate, hard to believe, talking about the No Kings Day that's coming up this weekend, and don't let them silence you. I've never known a Democrat to be silent, by the way. So I think there'll be plenty loud here on the weekend for this No Kings rally. But so that's the political part of it, right? Chuck Schumer, by the way, has voted for over the last however many decades, 29 of 30 CRs he has voted for. He just voted for this exact same CR in March. So that tells you that it's political. Now, certainly there's a policy difference here, but these things that we're talking about, healthcare for illegal immigrants, the Rural Hospital Stabilization Fund, ACA, Obama tax credits, none of those are funding issues. They don't belong in an appropriations bill. Those are ways and means issues, energy and commerce. It has nothing to do with funding the government whatsoever. So it's not germane to the discussion at all.
Yeah, and of course, Congressman, you sit as a member of the House Appropriations Committee, so you of all people know what's actually going on with our budget and appropriations. But I want to turn to this. Finally, the president's meeting with Zelensky expected later this morning. Let's listen to the president talking about his call with Russian President Putin and the relationship between these two leaders.
I thought it was a very good phone call. I thought very productive. But I'll be meeting with President Putin, and we'll make a determination. Tomorrow I'm meeting with President Zelensky, and I'll be telling him about the call. Tomorrow I'm meeting with President Zelensky, and I'll be telling him about the call. I mean, we have a problem. They don't get along too well, those two, and it's sometimes tough to have meetings, so we may do something where we're separate but equal. We'll meet and talk to parties, but this is a terrible relationship the two of them have.
Congressman, does the president's direct engagement with both leaders put the U.S. in a stronger position to finally broker peace between the two warring nations? And do you think there's something different this time around since the summit in Alaska?
Well, certainly the president is frustrated with this process. I mean, he's coming off of a huge success, obviously, in the Middle East. And what Putin has been doing, and he touts this as part of his success, is that he's outlasted so many presidents over the decades. And what he tries to do in every situation when he's confronted with either President Trump or any other president is he's trying to delay and de-escalate, right? He's going to delay, and then try to de-escalate us. That's why, as President Trump has put the potential of Tomahawk cruise missiles being transferred to Ukraine, which, by the way, I'd like to say, if we're going to do something like that, I'd like to see this in the command and control of the United States. Aside from that, what does President Vladimir Putin do? He tries to de-escalate us from that and then delay through talks and delay while he continues to prosecute this war and invasion of Ukraine that he's undertaken over the last 3.5 years. So this is the right step for President Trump right now, to get in a room and talk with these folks. And the difference here is President Trump is so much of a better negotiator than I think any president I've ever seen in my lifetime. I mean, he is the peace president. That is what he is trying to seek here. And if anyone can find an end to this conflict, it is President Trump.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And in light of everything we saw in the Middle East, too, I think Putin has seen President Trump's strength play out on the world stage. All our adversaries have. And maybe that, I agree, could be the big difference here. Congressman Riley Moore, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much.